The warning. In the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Consortium's primary observation hub, senior observer Selphos watched the unusual transmission replay for the 100th time. The message was unlike anything recorded in the Consortium's 50,000-year history of first contacts. Greetings to our galactic neighbors. We are humanity of Earth. We come with peace, knowledge, and a single warning. Please don't make us angry. We don't want to find out what happens if you do. Selphos's neural tendrils rippled with confusion. Most species' first transmissions were either fearful pleas for protection or grandiose declarations of their civilization's achievements. This measured, almost casual warning was unprecedented. Analysis complete, senior observer announced the quantum intelligence matrix. Probability calculations indicate a 99.9% chance this species has no faster-than-light capability. Their most advanced vessels barely reach their system's fourth planet. Primary energy source: primitive nuclear fission with early fusion experiments. Military capabilities: negligible by consortium standards. Then why? Selphos pondered aloud. Do they speak as if they're doing us a favor by warning us? The answer came 3 standard cycles later, when the consortium's cultural analysis team finished their deep scan of Earth's information networks. What they found caused an emergency session of the High Council for the first time in 2,000 years. High Chancellor Vexera, her bioluminescent form pulsing with concern, addressed the gathered representatives of 500 advanced civilizations. Distinguished members, we face an unprecedented situation. The species designation humanity presents a unique challenge to our understanding of civilizational development. The massive holographic display activated, showing scenes from Earth's history. Unlike any species we've encountered, humans have not followed the standard progression of technological and social development. They should have destroyed themselves at least 7 times during their history. The display showed nuclear weapons, climate disasters, pandemics, and countless wars. Yet each time they faced extinction, they not only survived but emerged stronger. Their information networks contain millions of simulated scenarios of their own destruction. They actively imagine and prepare for virtually every possible way they could be wiped out. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Species simply didn't do this. It wasn't natural to obsess over one's own destruction. But most concerning, Vexera continued, is their response to threats. When faced with extinction-level challenges, humans display a remarkable ability to set aside their internal conflicts and unite with terrifying efficiency. The display shifted to show humanity's various scientific achievements, all made under pressure. The Manhattan Project, the space race, the global pandemic response of 2020, the climate restoration initiative of 2040. They turn fear into fuel, Vexera explained, pressure into progress, and most worryingly, they learn from every conflict. They don't just fight. They adapt, improve, and emerge more formidable than before. A representative from the militant Crothar Empire rose. With respect, High Chancellor, they are primitives. Their weapons would barely scratch our defensive shields. Why does this warrant an emergency session? Vexera's bioluminescence shifted to a deep warning red, because, honored representative, we have never encountered a species that thrives on adversity. Every other civilization we found either evolved past their aggressive tendencies or destroyed themselves trying. Humans have done neither. They've weaponized their very adaptability. The display showed a final image, a simple graph showing humanity's technological progress over time. Unlike the smooth, gradual curves of other species, humanity's line was jagged, with massive leaps forward during periods of greatest threat. They're not warning us because they're powerful, Vexera concluded. They're warning us because they know what they become when they're threatened. Their history shows that the more overwhelming the force they face, the more rapidly they evolve to overcome it. What do you suggest? Asked the Crothar representative, their previous dismissiveness now tempered with uncertainty. We have 3 options, Vexera replied. First, we could ignore them until they develop faster than light travel naturally. Second, we could attempt peaceful contact and carefully guide their development. Or third, she paused, her luminescence dimming. We could attempt to eliminate them now, before they can respond. But I must warn you, their historical records suggest that if we fail, if even a fraction of their population survives, we may create exactly what we fear most: a humanity united against an external threat, driven by the one thing more powerful than their weapons: their sheer, unstoppable determination to prove themselves more than anyone expected them to be. As the council chambers erupted in debate, Zelphos watched the human transmission one more time. The warning didn't seem so casual anymore. In fact, it seemed like the most honest first contact message he'd ever heard. Humanity wasn't making a threat. They were trying to prevent one. Because somehow, impossibly, these primitives knew something that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations were only just beginning to understand: that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their resources or even their potential. It was their absolute refusal to accept limitations, especially ones imposed by others. The test. The Galactic Consortium's decision to test humanity came not from malice, but from a deep-seated need to understand. After 3 months of debate, the Scientific Assessment Division, led by the methodical Dr. Zyra Cavell, implemented what they considered a perfectly controlled experiment. The parameters are clear, Dr. Cavell explained to the Oversight Committee, her crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that conveyed both excitement and professional detachment. We introduce controlled challenges to various human population centers. Nothing lethal, merely inconvenient. We observe their response patterns, their problem-solving approaches, their social cohesion under stress. The first test began in a mid-sized human city called Brisbane. The consortium's quantum manipulators altered local weather patterns, creating an unprecedented heat wave. They expected to observe standard crisis responses: infrastructure strain, social services activation, perhaps some civil unrest. Instead, within 48 hours, the city had transformed. Neighbors were checking on neighbors. Community centers became cooling stations. Local engineers jury-rigged massive solar-powered cooling systems using materials that, by consortium standards, were barely more advanced than stone tools. Fascinating, Dr. Cavell noted. They're not just enduring, they're innovating. The second test targeted agricultural regions in what humans called Ukraine. Subtle atmospheric modifications should have reduced crop yields by 30%. But humans detected the changes within days. Rather than panic, they adapted. New farming techniques emerged. Seed variations were fast-tracked. Communities shared resources and knowledge at unprecedented speeds. They're learning, one of Cavell's assistants observed. Not just adapting, but actively studying the anomalies we're creating. The third test focused on disrupting global communication networks through targeted electromagnetic interference. The consortium expected chaos. Instead, humans created new communication methods, improvising with technology that should have been far beyond their current capabilities. But it was the fourth test that changed everything. The consortium introduced what they thought was an insurmountable challenge: a complex mathematical encryption that, by their calculations, should have taken humanity centuries to decode. They embedded it in a signal that interfered with global positioning systems, expecting to observe how humans handled the partial collapse of their navigation infrastructure. 17 days later, a message arrived on every consortium monitoring frequency. It was their own encryption, completely unraveled, with a simple addition: nice puzzle. Here's one for you. What followed was an elegant mathematical proof that demonstrated not only had humans solved the encryption, but they'd improved upon it. And hidden within the proof was something that sent shockwaves through the consortium's scientific community: hints that humanity was on the verge of discovering principles of quantum mathematics that had taken other species millennia to develop. Dr. Cavell called an emergency halt to all testing. Her report to the High Council was succinct but disturbing. We have grossly miscalculated. Each challenge we present isn't just being solved. It's being studied, reverse engineered, and improved upon. They're using our tests as blueprints for advancement. In the council chambers, her holographic presentation showed a disturbing pattern. Human technological development had accelerated precisely in the areas where the consortium had introduced challenges. They weren't just overcoming obstacles, they were actively learning from them. We intended to study them. Cavell concluded, her crystalline form vibrating with what in her species passed for anxiety. Instead, they'd been studying us. Every probe we sent, every modification we made, every pattern we altered, they noticed. Not only noticed, but analyzed, understood, improved upon. High Chancellor Vexer's bioluminescence pulsed with concern. Are you suggesting we terminate the assessment? I'm suggesting, Cavell replied, that we already know everything we need to know about humanity. They don't just overcome challenges, they actively seek them out. They don't just solve problems, they turn those solutions into stepping stones for further advancement. And most importantly, she paused, her crystalline structure shifting to project her next words directly into the minds of all present. They know we're watching. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Their carefully controlled experiment had become something else entirely. They hadn't been testing humanity. Humanity had been testing them. As if to confirm this revelation, at that exact moment, every quantum-secured communication channel in the consortium simultaneously received the same message. We asked nicely about not making us angry. Consider this a friendly reminder. By the way, thanks for all the interesting puzzles. They've been quite educational. The message was signed with a simple Earth emoji, a smiley face. The mistake. Not everyone in the Galactic Consortium heeded the warnings about humanity. The militant evaluation corps, led by Commander Drax of the Crothar Empire, saw humanity's rapid advancement not as a reason for caution, but as justification for immediate action. They're evolving too quickly, Drax argued before a select committee, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's quantum lights. Every cycle we wait gives them more opportunity to advance. They've already reversed engineered several of our test protocols. If we don't act now, we risk dealing with a significantly more advanced humanity in the near future. High Chancellor Vexer's bioluminescence flickered with disapproval. The Council has already ruled against direct intervention. The risk is too great. The risk, Drax countered, is in our inaction. I propose a simple demonstration of force. Not an attack, merely a show of our technological superiority. Something to humble them, to make them understand their place in the galactic order. When the committee rejected his proposal, Drax made the mistake that would change the course of galactic history. He decided to act independently. The Crothar battle fleet, under Drax's command, was tasked with routine patrol duties in the sector containing Earth. But Drax had modified the mission parameters, carefully concealing his true intentions from both his superiors and the Council. His plan was elegant in its simplicity. The fleet would perform a synchronized jump into Earth's solar system, appearing simultaneously at strategic points around the planet. They would deactivate key military installations using precise quantum disruption fields. Temporary and non-lethal, but impressive enough to demonstrate the futility of resistance. A simple display of power, he assured his officers. They'll understand that their best option is peaceful integration into the consortium. Under proper guidance, the fleet materialized around Earth exactly as planned. But that was the last thing that went according to Drax's expectations. The humans didn't panic. They didn't even seem surprised. Instead, every screen on every Crothar ship suddenly displayed the same message. We've been expecting you. In fact, we've been looking forward to this. Before Drax could process this response, his sensors detected something impossible. The quantum disruption fields, his fleet's primary weapon system, were being reflected back at his ships. Not just reflected, but amplified and modified in ways his scientists couldn't explain. Impossible, his chief technician declared. They've not only predicted our attack pattern but developed countermeasures for technology they shouldn't even be able to detect. Then came humanity's response. It wasn't the primitive nuclear weapons the consortium had observed. Instead, thousands of small, previously undetected satellites activated around Earth. Each one emitted a field that somehow interfered with the Crothar ship's quantum probability drives, technology that humanity shouldn't have had any knowledge of. They've been preparing, Drax realized too late. All this time, they've been. His sentence was cut short as every system on his flagship simultaneously shut down, then rebooted with a new message on all screens. Remember that encryption puzzle you sent us? We learned a lot from it. Here's our solution. The Crothar fleet found itself completely immobilized, held in place by fields of energy that defied their understanding. But humanity wasn't done. From Earth, a single transmission was broadcast to every ship. We warned the consortium politely. We solved their puzzles. We even sent thank you notes. But you, Commander Drax, decided to ignore all that. Now we'll demonstrate why our first message to the galaxy was a warning about. What followed wasn't destruction. It was something far more humbling. One by one, every piece of advanced technology on the Crothar ships was systematically analyzed, improved upon, and then demonstrated back to them. Humanity hadn't just prepared defenses. They'd used the consortium's own tests as blueprints to leapfrog centuries of technological development. You should know, the transmission continued, that we've been broadcasting everything that's happening here to the entire consortium. Consider this a lesson, not just for you, but for anyone else who might mistake our preference for peace as a sign of weakness. The message ended with a set of coordinates for the consortium to collect their stranded fleet, along with a detailed technical analysis of every vulnerability humanity had discovered in their systems and suggested improvements. As Drax waited for the humiliating rescue, he finally understood what the humans had been trying to tell the galaxy all along. Their warning hadn't been a threat. It had been an attempt to prevent exactly this situation, one where someone's arrogance forced humanity to demonstrate just how quickly they could adapt, learn, and overcome any challenge presented to them. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their defenses. It was their insatiable drive to turn every obstacle into an opportunity for growth, every challenge into a chance for advancement, and every act of aggression into a lesson they would never forget, and never need to learn twice. The response. The emergency session of the Galactic Consortium began with something unprecedented in its 50,000-year history: absolute silence. The assembled representatives of 500 civilizations watched the complete recording of humanity's encounter with the Crothar fleet, and for the first time in living memory, no one had an immediate response. Finally, High Chancellor Vexera broke the silence. We face a unique situation. Humanity has demonstrated capabilities far beyond our previous assessments, yet they've chosen to display remarkable restraint. The holographic displays showed the detailed technical analysis humanity had provided, not just of the Crothar fleet's vulnerabilities, but of potential improvements. It wasn't the action of a vengeful species seeking dominance. It was something far more intriguing: an invitation to collaborate. Dr. Cavell, still leading the Scientific Assessment Division, stepped forward. We've analyzed their response pattern. The humans didn't just defend themselves. They turned the entire encounter into a teaching moment, both for the Crothar and for us. The display shifted to show the progression of human technological development over the past year. Every test the consortium had performed had been noted, studied, and improved upon. But more than that, humans had taken disparate pieces of advanced technology and combined them in ways no other species had considered. They don't think like us, Cavell explained, her crystalline form shimmering with excitement. Where we see distinct scientific disciplines, they see interconnected possibilities. Where we seek perfection in specialization, they find strength in combination. They don't just adapt technology, they reimagine its very purpose. From the diplomatic section, Ambassador Yilks of the collective mind worlds raised an appendage. But surely this level of advancement poses a threat. No species has ever developed so rapidly. A new voice answered. A human voice. The assembly turned in shock as a holographic representation of Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the consortium, appeared in the center of the chamber. "We apologize for the intrusion," she said, smiling warmly. "But since you're discussing us, we thought it might be more productive to have a direct conversation." The fact that humans had managed to access the consortium's most secure communication channels, and chosen to do so politely, was not lost on anyone present. "You must understand our concern," Vexra responded, recovering quickly. "Your rate of advancement is unprecedented." "Because your approach to advancement itself is limited," Dr. Chen replied. "You see technology as a linear progression. We see it as a web of possibilities. Every piece of knowledge connects to every other piece. When you gave us puzzles, you expected us to solve them one at a time. Instead, we looked for patterns, for connections, for the principles behind the principles." She gestured, and the chamber's holographic display transformed into a complex three-dimensional web of interconnected technological concepts. "This is how we see knowledge, not as separate disciplines, but as one vast, interconnected landscape of possibility. Every discovery doesn't just solve one problem. It illuminates paths to dozens of other solutions." The display shifted again, showing the modifications humanity had made to the Crothar fleet's technology. "We didn't just defend ourselves against Commander Drax's attack. We used it as an opportunity to demonstrate a better way forward. Look at the improvements we suggested. Each one makes the technology not just more efficient, but safer, more stable, and more adaptable." "And what do you want in return?" Vexra asked, her bioluminescence pulsing with curiosity. "What we've wanted since our first message: peaceful cooperation. Yes, we adapt quickly. Yes, we can be formidable when threatened. But our true strength isn't in our ability to fight. It's in our ability to imagine new possibilities. We don't want to dominate the galaxy. We want to help explore it, to find connections others have missed, to combine different perspectives into new solutions." She smiled again. "We warned you not to make us angry, not because we're violent, but because conflict forces us to focus our adaptability on defense and survival. We'd much rather focus it on discovery and growth. So, shall we start over? This time with open dialogue instead of tests and demonstrations." The chamber erupted in discussion, but it wasn't fearful or antagonistic. For the first time, the galaxy's oldest and most advanced civilizations were considering something they hadn't in millennia: the possibility that they still had much to learn. And humanity, it seemed, would be an excellent teacher, not because they knew more, but because they never stopped looking for new ways to learn. The New Order. 5 years after humanity's dramatic introduction to galactic society, the consortium had changed more than it had in the previous 1,000 years. The great halls of the Central Scientific Academy, once segregated by species and discipline, now buzzed with mixed teams of researchers, their diverse approaches creating breakthroughs at an unprecedented rate. In one laboratory, a human quantum physicist worked alongside a crystalline Kegel scientist, their collaborative effort having just solved a problem that had stumped the galaxy for centuries. The solution came not from advanced technology, but from what humans called thinking outside the box, approaching the problem from an entirely new angle. "The humans have taught us that our greatest limitation wasn't our technology," High Chancellor Vexra observed during the Centennial Assembly. "It was our rigid thinking. We had become so specialized, so focused on perfecting what we knew, that we'd forgotten how to imagine what could be." The evidence was everywhere. Human approaches to problem-solving had revolutionized fields ranging from medicine to space travel. Their habit of combining seemingly unrelated concepts had led to innovations that no single species would have conceived alone. But more importantly, their influence had begun to change how other species thought about progress itself. The Crothar Empire, once the most militant faction in the consortium, had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation. After their encounter with Earth, they had redirected their competitive nature from conquest to innovation. Commander Drax, in an ironic twist, had become one of the strongest advocates for human collaboration, having experienced firsthand the benefits of their unusual perspective. "We thought power came from perfecting our existing strengths," Drax explained to a group of young Crothar. "Humans showed us that true power comes from the ability to continuously reimagine what's possible." But humanity's influence extended beyond just technology and innovation. Their approach to problem-solving had begun to influence galactic society itself. The consortium, once a rigid hierarchy of advanced civilizations, had evolved into a more dynamic network of collaborating species, each contributing their unique perspectives to shared challenges. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as the head of the newly formed Interspecies Innovation Council, had become a symbol of this new approach. The galaxy had achieved incredible things through specialization and careful advancement, she noted during a public address. But it had also created boundaries between species, between disciplines, between what was known and what could be imagined. We didn't come to break down these boundaries. We came to show that they never really existed in the first place. The results spoke for themselves. Diseases once thought incurable were being treated through combinations of technologies no single species would have conceived. Faster-than-light travel had been revolutionized by applying principles from quantum biology. Even the fundamental understanding of the universe had evolved, as human creativity combined with alien precision to unlock new realms of possibility. But perhaps the most profound change was in how the galaxy viewed the emergence of new civilizations. The consortium had abandoned its policy of testing and evaluation, replacing it with open dialogue and collaborative learning. Every new species they had learned brought not just new technology or knowledge, but new ways of thinking, new perspectives that could illuminate unseen possibilities. Humanity's greatest gift to us wasn't their adaptability or their technology, High Chancellor Vexera reflected during the closing of the Centennial Assembly. It was their reminder that the universe is not a hierarchy to be climbed, but a mystery to be explored together. They showed us that true advancement comes not from perfecting what we know, but from remaining eternally curious about what we might discover next. As she spoke, in laboratories and research centers across the galaxy, humans worked alongside aliens, each learning from the other, each contributing their unique perspectives to shared challenges. Their first message, "Please don't make us angry," had become something of a gentle joke in diplomatic circles, a reminder of how close the galaxy had come to missing out on this collaborative future. The universe, it turned out, had needed humanity not for their potential for conflict, but for their endless capacity to imagine new possibilities. In warning the galaxy not to make them angry, they had ultimately taught it something far more valuable: how to make everyone better together. And in the vast tapestry of space, countless new civilizations were emerging, each one now greeted not with tests and evaluations, but with a simple message: "Welcome to the galaxy. What new possibilities can you imagine?"